Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 18th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We shall all rise and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call of the members. Please note that Chairman Tucker is absent today and Mr. Lopes will be chairing in his place. Mr. Lemonna is absent. Mr. O'Brien. Here. Mr. Pelton. Here. Ms. Pratt. Here. And Chairman Lopes. Here. A quorum is present. The first matter on tonight's agenda is application A2404, Rocco Andreotti and Isaac Reyes, 28 Avon Street, Everett, Mass., requesting a variance of the revised ordinances of the City of Revere relative to parking requirements to enable the appellant to convert an existing single-family dwelling to a two-family dwelling at 64 Beach Road.
Hi, good evening. So what we have decided is to withdraw our application without
Can you
prejudice.
state your name and address?
My name is
For the
Isaac Reyes
record? Address for the record?
for 64 Beach Road.
Thank you.
Where's that? You hear me? Oh, sorry. So I say what we decided is to withdraw our application without prejudice.
I'll make a motion to allow the petition.
Okay. We can have a roll call?
Shall the Zoning Board of Appeals allow the petitioner to withdraw the application without prejudice? Mr. Lemonna is absent. Mr. O'Brien? Yes. Mr. Pelton? Yes. Ms. Pratt? Yes. And Chairman Lopes? Yes, the application has been withdrawn without prejudice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're taking some of the agendas items up out of order, and you can ask it just to go with the
Yes. We're going to go out of order on the agendas. We're going to do Avon Street first. Ashley?
On application A2408, 8 Avon LLC, 1040 to 1048 North Shore Road, Revere, Mass., requesting multiple variances to enable the appellant to construct a contemporary 5-story residential apartment building with 12 units at 8 Avon Street.
Good afternoon, lady and gentlemen of the board. At the outset, I want to thank you for this different date for a ZPA hearing. I know that there were scheduling issues for the month, so I thank you all for making the time in your schedules to get an extra date in here on a Tuesday night rather than a Wednesday. But for the record, my name is Attorney Jerry D'Ambrosio. My office is at 14 Proctor Avenue in Revere, Massachusetts. I stand before you here today with the petitioner of the 8 Avon Street project, James Russo, a well-known developer in the city of Revere. The actual legal entity is the Avon LLP trust that owns the property. Before I start, as is my practice, I incorporate by reference the briefs that I submitted on this project, a letter dated June 14th, as well as the application. Those documents lay out the full reading and the full evidence before the board. So by way of summary, I would state that 8 Avon Street is currently a dilapidated two-family structure. I put that up there. It's, again, a dilapidated two-family structure built roughly in 1900. It currently sits on a parcel about 4,000 square feet in size. It is in the GB district. Again, important to note because the GB district allows for apartment dwellings by right. Also of important note is that this parcel sits within a half mile of the Wonderland train station, which is important, which at least by measurement, would qualify it under a transit-oriented development under the governor's new legislation. That being said, under the GB district, what Mr. Russo is proposing is a 12-unit apartment building, approximately 13,000 square feet in size. It's 5 stories tall, 6 one-bedrooms and 6 three-bedrooms. This has 3 bedrooms. There's been a bit of an outcry in the community and City Hall wanting to make sure that with the affordable housing crisis that the city of Revere is in, that we have units that can also house families, not simply one-bedrooms. So this is a little different for Mr. Russo, and it's really a mixed project between the two, with 6 one-bedrooms and 6 three-bedroom units. Of particular note, what's interesting is that the 4th floor units, while they're 3 bedrooms, they actually have a loft to them, which provides a different bedroom. So they're an interesting design, rather unique and different. I'd suggest that the architect actually did a nice job in deviating from the traditional plans that have been used. It'll actually make for a beautiful new structure in the area. I think what's important is also to note is that right around this property now, there's already structures, approximately the height of what we're going to build. So it's already a densely built area that allows for this kind of use. It'll fit in well. It's, again, brand new, will be code compliant with all of the necessary fire apparatus and fire suppression systems. Of important note, we offer 5 parking spaces. I know that that's a deviation, but again, it's important to note that it is in walking distance to the train station. And like many of the other projects that Mr. Russo does, they're oriented toward the train station. With that in mind, it's important to note that this project does have Ward Councilor Guarino's support. She's not here tonight, but it does have her support. It's also important to note that the reason for the variances that are requested are really pertaining to the complex soil types located in this parcel, along with the irregular grading and the economic hardship that came with the site plan work that was required to build this structure. The site plan development and work was considerably more expensive here, simply because of the sand-like soil that was present there. Again, I know Mr. Tucker's not here. It's Mr. Lopes. Mr. Tucker would be cutting me off at this point if he were here. So I'll stop with that. I think it's a full submission before you. And I guess, oh, actually, let me, I do have one other one. I'll show you. There's a rendition of what the structure will look like from the front. Again, more of a modern look. And here's a poster board of what the structure will look like from the sides. And again, it's 12 units. Be happy to entertain any questions.
Are there any proponents to the variance? Anyone in favor? Hearing none, we'll close that side. Nope, we got a.
Yeah.
Just state your name
Hello, Mark Lees,
and address for the record.
27 Avon Street. We're just worried about the parking. We just sold 29. That's all remodeled. I'm remodeling 27 at the moment. We have another gentleman here. He just bought his home. We're having trouble parking as it is. When you put these units here,
In favor or
I'm against.
you're against? Wrong proponent.
Oh,
Are there any proponents? Hearing and seeing none, I am going to close that part of the meeting. Opponents?
again, Mark Leesbrook.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Mark Leesbrook, 27 Avon Street, Revere, Mass.
Thank you.
02151. Okay? All we're worried about the parking. We're having trouble parking there now. We got people from not even on the block parking on Avon Street. The city of Revere gave them stickers for this opportunity. But because they cut the road off for the bikes and stuff, all across Revere Street are parking on our street. Now, we have 6 houses, 5 houses left on the 4 houses. You figure two cars per house. We have driveways, but they park in front of our driveways. And they leave. We had a couple towed here and there, and they still come back. Our main concern is for the parking. When we leave the house, we go shopping, come back, and it's taken. And it's terrible. I've been here 55 years, and it's the worst I've ever seen it.
Well, no one did, thank you for your testimony. Any other proponents? Opponents?
What?
Thank you for your testimony.
Oh,
You
okay,
may sit. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Azuddin Al-Wazani, and I'm from 19 Avon Street, in the same street, as my neighbors already said, we already struggling with the, parking spot, I myself, work, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And every time I come, I have a driveway. Guess what? My driveway is blocked. Imagine, having, more cars coming to the street. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to call cops every night, just to have someone removed from my. It's 1 hour taken off my sleep time, almost every week. So as I said, it just getting worse and worse since they moved Revere Street, a parking spot, to Avon Street, which was years ago. Sorry. As a permit resident parking, so I know who's my neighbor. Now, I have cars that's, parking in disability spot, and they don't get even a ticket. It happens every single day. This is just doesn't make any sense, So I'm an opponent to this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
From my understanding, there'll be no Revere resident stickers in this building.
Yeah, we have a resident sticker.
No, there won't be issued any resident sticker coming from this building.
Okay, but they're gonna park in the streets, right?
Well, they can't.
Yeah.
They can't.
I have people from other, places, if you come every Saturday and Sunday, you're gonna find people who don't even belong to Revere Street.
Well, that's something you have to deal with the parking department.
Yeah.
If you have an issue now, only the parking department can handle
Yeah,
that.
so this issue will get, worse and worse, with this building coming, in place, So if we can't fix this problem, we don't need to add another problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Closing that side of the hearing. Any members wish to comment?
Sure, you did say.
We have Jerry. Yes, Jerry.
No, I'm good.
Are you good? Okay.
But I do think the chairman properly stated that any tenants would be excluded from the resident parking program there. So it's more of an enforcement issue if they're having that.
Yeah.
You want me to go deep in? After a review of the application, I find strict enforcement of the zoning ordinance would create a substantial hardship and financial burden for the applicant. The soil condition consists of clay and wet sand affecting drainage on the property and are not suitable for the foundation support. The soil will need to be removed and a special foundation will be poured, which make the project very expensive. The property also has a high groundwater table, unusual grade. Due to the condition, the applicant has shown that it would be financially impractical to develop the property without the request of the zoning relief. I find that the relief will not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of the zoning board. If any of the ZBA members would like to make a motion,
Yeah, I think the application speaks for itself. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
yes. Roll call?
Shall the Zoning Board of Appeals grant the relief requested, subject to the ZBA standard conditions as follows? If the rights of this variance are not exercised within 1 year of the date of the grant of this variance, the rights shall lapse. This variance shall not be valid until the appellant has recorded this variance and plan in the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds and submits document recording numbers and dates to the city clerk and building inspector of the city of Revere. The appellant must receive site plan review approval prior to applying for a building permit, and the property shall not be eligible for participation in the city of Revere's residential and visitor on-street permit parking program. Mr. Lemonna is absent. Mr. O'Brien? Yes. Mr. Pelton? Yes. Ms. Pratt? Yes. And Chairman Lopes?
Yes.
Yes, the requested relief has been granted subject to those conditions. The next application is A2407, Zapage Development, LLC, Middleton, Mass., requesting a variance of Section 1728020, minimum parking requirements for apartment use within the Neighborhood Business District, to enable the appellant to construct a 25-unit apartment building at 344 Salem Street, Revere, Mass.
Good afternoon again. Attorney Jerry D'Ambrosio for the applicant before you, Zapage Development. My office is at 14 Proctor Avenue, Revere, Massachusetts. I think many of the members are familiar with this project. It originally came before the ZBA in October of 2022. It was approved back in October of 2022 for 4 stories, 25 small one-bedroom apartment houses, apartment units, and 50 parking spots. The parking spots were achieved with stackers. They were not independent parking spots. They were parking spots achieved with stackers. It's important to note that the petitioner came back before this board in November 29th of 2023, to hear our request for a removal or an elimination of the stackers, which would have brought the parking from 50 spots down to 31 spots. In the give and take of that hearing, there were a number of suggestions made by community members as well as some city councilors as to what they wanted to see for remediation or mitigation in return for the removal of the stackers. As a result of that, the plans were amended. As a result of that, the plans were amended and brought before the planning board on February 27th of 2024. The planning board reviewed them, had 2 separate meetings, sought counsel from the city solicitor, and based on the city solicitor and their independent determination of the plans, they determined that the plans had contained indeed material changes as required by the law. The significant changes to the plans that are before you today are considerable, and again, they're contained in our submission. They're contained in our submission, and again, by incorporation, I reference my 2 memos of June 12th, one we're entitled Specific and Material Changes to Development Plans for 344 Salem Street. The second memo being a variance addendum for 344 Salem Street, application number A2407. The reason these briefs are submitted is because they lay out the strong case under the law in Massachusetts that allowed for this project in the first place, and for the undeniably strong law that allows the ZBA to reduce or eliminate the stackers, reducing the parking to 31. I've summarized the changes to the plans. The screening for the parking area has been added. A privacy hedge is going to be added around the parking area. The roof line of the building has been changed, made more aesthetically appealing, and just as importantly, soundproofing has been implemented in the building. And again, the soundproofing, the screening for the parking garage, and the privacy hedge is all done for noise purposes, to reduce noise and congestion in the area. As well, the front area of the building was reconfigured to make it easier for cars to come in and come out. But I would say that the big improvement in these plans, and it was an improvement that was asked for indeed by Revere, by members of city government in Revere, was to add an affordability component for veterans housing, and that's what we did. So there are 2 units that are going to be designated for veterans housing at affordable rates as dictated by federal law. So this is the plan. The plans before you are significantly different than the ones a year ago. I do understand that there'll be neighborhood opposition, as there has been all the way through, and I understand that, and I respect that. But the reality is that in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we are in a housing crisis, and when you add on top of that super high interest rates and super high construction costs, what's going on is we're getting a real downward pressure on the creation of new units. The state of Massachusetts, by last report, is in the bottom 5 of the United States in the production of new housing. That's an embarrassing statistic. So while I do understand neighborhood concern, I do understand neighborhood protest, the good thing about this project is it's already up. I drove by it last night. It's beautiful. The building's absolutely beautiful. It fits into the neighborhood well. It's going to be an asset to that neighborhood. At the end of the day, the ground for the variance is economic hardship. In building this structure, the soil contact in that area, as well as a number of other costs that are detailed in the submission to you, skyrocketed the price. And that is the grounds for economic hardship, which is, again, a strong ground for case law in Massachusetts. And it's detailed in the filing before you. Based on that, we're asking that that this board allow an adjustment simply for the stackers, that the stackers be removed. It's important to note that that'll leave 31 spaces for 25 single-bedroom units. 31 spaces for single-bedroom units. In Massachusetts, we have the Metropolitan Area Commission, which does studies in the greater Boston area on what the average need is for parking for this kind of structure. And the statistics are 1.1 per unit. 1.1 when it's not a transit-oriented development project. This is at a 1.2. So this is even above that standard. So again, I do understand the neighbors. I do understand that there's often people that don't like to see change for different reasons. The reality is that this project is going to produce a fraction of the traffic that a commercial project there by right would have produced. And the 31 spots, which we hope there'll still only be 25 cars, will create a fraction of the traffic that any type of 7-Eleven or pizza place or other use that could have been done there as a matter of right if it went in there. So that being said, we're asking that this board consider this We feel that the affordable housing component for veterans housing is an important one. It's much needed in Revere, and we think that the equities weigh in favor of Zapage development on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any opponents? Proponents? Closing. Okay. There's two parts to this meeting. First part is that we have to find that there's specific changes to warrant this new variance. All right, so we're going to vote twice on this. I reviewed the resubmitted plans for 354 Salem Street, and I find that there are specific material changes which would allow the applicant to come back to the ZBA. My findings are as follows. The changes are cosmetic in nature, but with all are taken into consideration, the result is a less intrusive development for the neighborhood. The changes are additional screening around the parking garage area, privacy hedges, roof line accent, soundproofing materials, reconfiguration of surface levels parking in entry areas, and dedication of 2 affordable housing units for veterans. These changes represent a substantial modification of the project, which allows them to come back to the ZBA. Members have anything to add?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve? Let's get the proponents. No? Oh, this, yes, this is, right.
After the ZBA makes a determination as to whether there have been specific material changes or not, okay? Shall the ZBA find that there are specific and material changes to the development plans for 344 Salem Street? Mr. Lemonna is absent. Mr. O'Brien? Yes. Mr. Pelton? Yes. Ms. Pratt? Yes, and Chairman Lopes? Yes, the board finds that there are specific and material changes. Now it's time for the public hearing on the variance request.
I was at the planning board meetings, both of them. I'm the only person here that was at those.
Sir, you can come up to the podium and speak. Proponents.
Before you vote, I have information for you.
Oh, that was a different section.
But that's what I want to speak about, one of the things.
We're not taking comments on that. That's ZBA to vote. You can come up in a few minutes to speak. Okay, we're closing that.
You're going to...
Okay.
So you're going to ask for proponents first. You may want to explain what proponent means. That's all.
Are there any proponents? That means that you are in favor of the variance. Any proponents? Or remove? Proponents, not? Yeah. Yeah. So just state your name and address. for the
James
record.
Vasquez, 21 Clifton Street, Revere, Mass. So I am the direct abutter. When you go there and look at the building, where the garage door is going to be facing is going to be towards my house. My bedroom's right there. And I don't want the stackers. I really don't care where people park. If anyone parks on that street, everyone on the street's going to call and make sure the car gets towed. They do it now. I lived there for over 10 years, and I used to own the garage that was there before they built the building. So the stackers are dangerous, and they're noisy. So for a year now, especially summertime is here, I listen to them. They're over there working at 7 o'clock in the morning. Can you imagine 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, people going to work and listen to a car lift? Have you ever heard a lift go up and down? Hey, every foot, the automatic locks click, click, you can hear from a half a mile away. At some point, someone's gonna get hurt. You know, it's just like putting a car in a lift at Sears or any garage. So I think if a lot of the other people are here don't even live close enough, that it's gonna matter. It's gonna matter to me though, right? Even if they put up the noise sound barrier in the brush, if the stackers are there, the garage door opening is facing my house, I'm gonna hear it.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, sir.
thanks.
Are there any other proponents?
Council Mark Silvestri. How are you doing, Board? I am a proponent. I officially started against this project. I had an opportunity to meet with the developer. I've walked the site from what was there prior to what is there now, getting an additional veterans units in the units. Also, I don't think we've held any other developer in the city for the last 15 to 20 years to the standard of 2 parking spots per apartment, and I don't think we should start with one today. So I appreciate you supporting this motion. Thank you.
Any other proponents? None? Hearing and seeing none, I am going to close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents? Come up and speak, sir. State your name and address for the record.
John Ritchie, 25th Freckles. First of all, I heard a couple of comments about Mr. Vestry's, first of all, that he's, I'm sorry, I meant to ask you a question before I started. With 4 members here, what's the mix of what passes and fails?
Excuse,
With 4 members, what's needed to pass, or 4 for what?
4 out of 4.
4 out of 4 to pass?
yes.
To pass?
A quorum, the ZBA is made up of 5 members. A quorum is 4, and 4 would be required to pass or grant a variance.
Okay. So the argument that the ZBA should make regulations based on all around the city that's being allowed to have less parking per apartment, the elected officials need to make a decision to change the law so that they can face the public in the voting booth, okay? I know you don't have a problem with it. That's why I'm saying you should disregard that. That should not be in your criteria, in my opinion. The next thing is, I was at both planning board meetings. And when Frank Stringy was asked about these issues, he said collectively, without the parking, collectively all these issues are not enough to send it back to the ZBA. It was the city solicitor that sent it back to the ZBA, and perhaps he didn't know, or perhaps no one knows, or you don't know, that the Attorney O'Neill cited precedent in Massachusetts law. The precedent was for Nantucket Island. It might as well be for Disney World. That has nothing to do with Revere. Nantucket Island, as everybody here knows, is one of the most unique places in the world. It's got special zoning ordinances to make it look like it's from the 1700s, during the whaling era. So it's really, it was highly deceptive. Mr. D'Ambrosio here, he hasn't been at all the meetings. I've been at all the meetings. He said there was after the 50 stackers were approved, and don't forget, that was what sweetened the deal for the ZBA when the ZBA gave 4 variances out of 5, legittimo, as we'd say in the Italian neighborhood, 4 out of 5. The one was the parking that the neighbors held out on, and Zepage himself volunteered to put in the stackers. We didn't think it was a great idea because you have to move a car to put a car in, but we learned to accept what we could get. He also said he was going to repair a culvert, which would have saved the city some money and helped out the neighborhood. That he's reneged on. He hasn't done anything with it. The stackers, he's reneged on. Jamie here says the stackers are noisy. Well, I have this from the, excuse me one second. I have this from the manufacturer of auto stackers.
Sir, I'll give you another 2 minutes on the podium.
I got some important information here, though. The company, Auto Stackers, that makes these things, this is what they say. It's a whispering 52 decibels for these parking lifts. And they're less noisy than a household appliance. For reference, a washing machine is 75. So basically, you don't have to worry about anything, Jamie. You're not going to be noisy. Economic hardship. The ZBA is supposed to be concerned with women, widows, and orphans for economic hardship. Developers, this man got 9 extra units. Should add 16, he had 25. $35,000 a month extra income he has, plus the capital appreciation on that building, because it's a 25-unit building. It's basically a building fit on a postage stamp. He got that.
Sir, those items are irrelevant to this meeting. Stay on the topic.
I get a chance to speak?
Yes.
These people might not think they're
You
irrelevant.
have 1 more minute on
Yeah.
the podium.
Thanks. I have much more. I sent the letter in. I hope you people read it. This has been an unfair process, and unfair processes do not help a city. They hurt a city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents? 3 minutes.
Let me just state this. My name is Patrick Reckena. I live in 5 Laurel Street in Saugus, which is roughly 1.5 blocks away from the development. I love the development. I think it's great from what it was. It's actually much better now. I'm not against developing that unit or those units. It is great, but I would like, yes, for the law to be followed, because we have a problem in Saugus with the street parking, which basically we don't have it properly. The streets are not properly built. When people park, they park on the sidewalks. Half of your cars on the sidewalk, the other half is on the road. We already have that issue now. So we are potentially 29 or 30 more vehicles coming into the neighborhood. I'm a block away from it. And if you go from Salem Street that has no parking, I'm 1 block away.
Sir,
So,
sorry to disturb you, but if you don't live within the city, I don't think you have rights to come up here to the podium. If you live in the city of Saugus, this is the
Yes.
city of Revere Matter.
yes, correct.
All
That
due
is true.
respect.
Yeah. But this affects Saugus, does it not?
Excuse me.
It affects Saugus, yes. Clifton Street, where this
Yes,
property is
but-
basically next to it, it
This
is
meeting is not
Saugus.
for Saugus residents.
Okay. I understand that, but it's gonna affect me, correct? This is what I'm trying to make it understand.
It's a public meeting, but not for Saugus residents. It's for Revere residents.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Go ahead.
So thank you. So I do believe that they should just follow the law in what was previously agreed upon, which is the stackers. That will eliminate the parking issue. It's as simple as that. Just follow the law, get the stackers, and no problems. Because unfortunately, that location, because it's so close to the edge between Revere and Saugus, the streets of Revere over there do not allow for overnight parking. You practically have no overnight parking. The only way you can accommodate parking is using the streets of Saugus, not Revere. And I live in Saugus, so I would like for these stackers to be in place so I don't get negatively affected by potentially 20-something vehicles in there. All right, Mr. Chair, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're going to take a 2-minute recess. Okay, we're going to continue with the opponents. Any other opponents?
Sorry.
State your name and address for the record, sir.
Yep, Christopher Chanko, 1 Clifton Street. Just want to give a little history on this property. Back in 2016, excuse me? You give me a time limit?
Yes, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yeah, thanks. 2006, this property, there was a landscaper proposing to add 6 parking spots to this property. It was denied by the city of Revere back then. So let's fast forward, because I only have a couple minutes here. It's okay for a 4-story, 25-unit on an 18,000 square foot lot that doesn't meet the parking law? It's not okay. So with that said, Clifton Street is 75% Saugus, not Revere. So where's the other parking going? Saugus. This is a petition from Saugus, and this is held by law. 95% of Clifton Street is on this. They have a word too. On the last meeting, I told them you should notify them, because they're all right across the street. It's under 300 feet. Were any of those people notified? The answer is no. So the original agreement was 50 spots with the stackers for the 4 approvals they already had. And as a resident, I'm not going for 5. And we're not going for 5. There's over 25 people on that list, and I'll hold that to law. Thank you.
Good evening, Michelle Kelly, Derby Road. I just want to go back to some basics here to begin. And I want to remind everyone that pursuant to Section 17.04.010 of the revised zoning ordinances, the purposes and objectives of our zoning ordinances are as follows: to lessen congestion in the streets, to prevent overcrowding, to avoid undue concentration of population, to facilitate the provision of, among other things, open space, to encourage the most appropriate use of land throughout the city, to conserve health, to secure safety from fire, flood, panic, and other dangers, to provide adequate light, air, and space, and to preserve and increase amenities by the promulgation of regulations to fulfill these objectives. I would argue that this project doesn't fulfill any of those purposes and objectives. And issuing yet another variance will only erode these purposes and objectives even further. In addition, as appointed members of the zoning board, the purposes and objectives of our zoning ordinances of the City of Revere should be yours to uphold, and they should be your utmost and main concerns and priorities. Issuing yet another variance specifically on a project where there is an incredible amount of public opposition is contrary to the purposes and objectives of the Cities of Revere's revised zoning ordinances. Therefore, I urge you to deny the applicant's request this evening and enforce the parking requirements as prescribed pursuant to our zoning ordinances. I also just want to touch on something that Attorney D'Ambrosio said, actually a couple of things. He said, you know, some residents just don't like change. And I think that's belittling and insulting to these residents because their concerns go beyond just maybe not liking change. And we can see that. They have real concerns, and I am urging you all to hear their concerns as residents of this city and to not belittle them. I also want to speak to the veterans housing. I am very happy that we're getting some veterans housing in there, extremely happy. But that shouldn't come as a trade-off to the fact that the zoning ordinances can just be ignored and the original obligations that were agreed to can now be ignored. This project is not benefiting the city. Can anyone tell me how it's benefiting the city? If the residents don't want it, we don't, you know, other than the 2 veteran housing, and this is going to cause it and be in opposition to everything our zoning ordinances are supposed to put into place, I don't see how you can continue to just grant variances after variance after variances. As appointed members of this board, it's getting a little ridiculous with all the variances that keep being requested, especially when there is opposition to them. I urge you to see the residents' point of view this evening and deny this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other opponents?
Good afternoon. Chris Canino, Ward 6 Councilor. Thank you. I'll keep it short. I'll keep it sweet. Don't need timer on me. I spoke to many residents in Ward 6, in that neighborhood specifically, who are opposed to the parking variance given to them. I like to stick to the original plan. So far, the project building looks good. Veterans part looks good. And I'd like to keep it the way it was. We had an agreement. It was acceptable, and it worked for everybody. I'd like to stick with it. I said, that's what happened over on Washington Avenue by the cemeteries. There was no parking on Washington Avenue. You go by there, there's always cars out there. And that's been a stickler for the city for the last couple of years, the parking. And I'd appreciate it if you consider it and keep it the way it was. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other opponents? Hey, ma'am, state your name and address for the record. You press the button.
Lucille Catracala, 76 Franklin Street. So I'm opposed to it. I've been to some of these meetings for the zoning board. What was agreed on with the parking, I feel should be done. Living on Franklin Street, we've seen when they revised the park, people pulling on the street, parking on the side of the street where there's no parking. Now when I go for a walk and I walk past that area, there's cars on the sidewalk, there's cars on the grass. You have to literally step in the street to get around that building and the construction because there's nowhere to walk because the cars are on the sidewalk and in the grass. Or you have to walk the bike path. It's already been agreed on. He was the one who said that he would be willing to put the stackers in, that would take care of the parking issue. I don't understand, like, if you agreed to it and you're the one that proposed it, why are we changing this? We never wanted this project to begin with. We kind of looked at the changes, and again, it's a compromise. You give and take. It's a give and take situation. And so that's what was agreed on, and now the building is built without the stackers. And now they want to make changes to what was already agreed on. How does that benefit the residents that live there? That we're going to have to deal with the traffic. You know, they talked about putting a commercial building there and how bad the traffic would be. That's not 24/7. A commercial business would be open and then close. A commercial business had been there before. We didn't have an issue with the traffic. We didn't have an issue with the parking. But we will now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Any other opponents? Yes, sir. Come on.
Can I give a 1 second?
Sure. One more minute.
Speaking about Mr. D'Ambrosio here and his dismissiveness, when they proposed this building, Mr. D'Ambrosio said, no need to have any parking because everybody Ubers. There he is. That man right there.
Thank you, sir.
That's what he thinks of us.
Any other opponents?
Do I press this?
It's already on.
Oh, okay. Maria Riccio, 24 Franklin Street, up in North Revere. I oppose. It's all been said.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close that side of the hearing. Any proponents? No, we already did proponents. Okay. Any ZBA members have any questions? None? Motion to vote on the matter?
What's the motion?
Is there a motion to vote? Yes? No? Roll call? There's a motion to vote.
You guys got to speak in the microphone. Okay. Yes.
A motion to vote, yes, approve.
Ask for a roll call? Okay.
Roll call?
Shall the ZBA grant the relief requested, subject to the ZBA's standard conditions? If the rights authorized by this variance are not exercised within 1 year of the date of the grant of this variance, the right shall lapse. This variance shall not be valid until the appellant has recorded this variance and plan in the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds and submits document recording numbers and dates to the city clerk and building inspector of the city of Revere. The appellant must receive site plan review approval prior to applying for a building permit. And the property shall not be eligible for participation in the city of Revere's residential and visitor on-street parking program. Mr. Lemonna?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Pelton?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Pratt? Yes, and Chairman Lopes?
Yes.
Yes, the variance has been granted. There's no further business, Chairman Lopes.
What a circus.
Thank you.
What a circus. Every one of you. Should all be